What's up, everybody? Another coding night stream where I'm gonna cry because I'm gonna break my code, blow stuff up, but it's perfectly fine because we're gonna do it together, which means me and one more viewer, because it's Friday night. Most normal people are hanging out, partying with their families. That's perfectly fine, but we are going to be here together coding. And if you can't watch it on Friday, you could always rewatch it. But I'm just going to do this every Friday to continue practicing coding live so people could see what we're doing. And if you're wondering who I am, if you somehow by accident found the stream, my name is Paul. I switched careers late in life into coding. And so this is a channel where I help you make the career switch yourself late in your life going into web development. I stream twice a week, 9 p.m. US Central Time, where I code, and then Saturday mornings, 11 a.m., where we talk about soft skills required to getting hired, how to write the resume, and all those other things. So it's a lot of fun. But if you're joining us, let me know if everything is working fine, if the audio's fine, if the music's not too loud. Let me know. Make sure you could see me, hear me. And if you can't, it happens. But I remember one time I streamed for a while and I was like, wait a second, what is happening? No one's commenting, no one's saying anything. And I realized is that, oh man, I wasn't streaming and it wasn't recording. So MC Rodriguez, great to have you here, loud and clear. Video's good. Thank you so much. And welcome, by the way. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm excited as always. No matter what happens, it's going to be fun. At least that's what I keep telling myself. But what I'm doing on this stream is I had this project idea called the Dev Hunt, where I'm building. Hold on, let me make sure my music is not too loud here. Where I'm building this idea out that I had, which I want to have a place for developers to come in and to be able to manage their projects that they're working on. And the most important part is to create some sort of social aspect around it where people could follow your projects, you could create bugs, and your friends that follow your projects, they could potentially work on helping you out and solve some problems that you might be running into, and basically create an environment where people are able to pair program and work together. So what I'm building is this project called Dev Hunt. And for this project, I'm using Remix because that's my favorite framework of choice. I've been really enjoying Remix. I really love it. It's really cool, the cool stuff you're able to do. And I'm going to keep using Remix until, I don't know, until the thing that I want to build can't be built with Remix. And then, of course, for my backend, I'm using Strapi because you are able to set up an API really, really quick, really like in 5 minutes, you could get started. It's pretty awesome. And to style my application, I'm using Tailwind because Tailwind CSS, in my opinion, is the greatest thing when you don't want to write your own CSS. And the current project that we're working on, this is the initial project. And right now I'm just trying to build the basic MVP to get basic functionality where right now we have this landing page with some basic information is dynamically generated from my Strapi backend. We have our about section, which I haven't implemented. We have resource section that I'm going to work on that this is just hard-coded for now. I didn't implement anything here. And we'll have a project section. This has the projects that are currently on the website. And then we're going to have a blog section, community section, and probably something else that I didn't think of. And currently when you log in, this is the dashboard that you see. You have this dashboard view where you could see the projects that you have. You could, at the moment, you could pin projects, you could unpin projects. You could go to the project's detail page that takes you to the section where you could see some basic information about the project. And this is all still work in progress. And you're able to have tasks where you could add a task. You could edit tasks, right? You could edit it. And today I want to work on this note section. So right now I basically, and I'll kind of walk you through the code. I'll tell you what I've done so far. But these note cards, they're being dynamically generated based on the notes that we have saved on our API on our back end. And then eventually we're going to have a comment section. And again, a lot of this stuff is just placeholder while I'm working on it. We also have this profile section here on the bottom where you could see your view profile. You could change your image. You could change your basic first name, last name, and your GitHub link, like basic information. And the goal for me is to get basic functionality working first before adding like more features. And so what I'm trying to, my goal is to finish up this section where you're able to edit your project. Right now you can't. And then when you go to the view of your project, I want to make sure that we could edit this details page, which you can't do right now from the front end. The tasks is pretty much done, but I might add additional things instead of just having task and status. And then I want to have ability for you to leave notes on your project, or maybe like you learned something and you want to save a code snippet, you'll be able to do it here. Eventually we'll do some type of filtering and searching. So if you have a bunch of notes, you are able to find them quickly. And then I want to have a comment section where people that are following your projects, they could leave comments and have a communication like with you through comments. So it's not going to be live chat, but it's going to be that async comment way of doing. And so the goal is to build this out first before adding any additional features. So today we're going to work on the notes. And at any moment, anytime, if you have any questions about anything, let me know. It'll be fun trying to answer them. And if I start crying, don't worry about it. And so right now I am going to kind of showcase what I'm working on. But before I do that, let me show you the back end of my Strapi project. Actually, let me close these windows that I no longer need to have open. So here's my Strapi backend. And what I did, if you're not familiar with Strapi, it's an awesome way to create an API really, really quickly, really, really fast, where you could start adding data to your backend that then you could access from your front end. So we have this idea of content type builder, and I already built all these different content types. I have authors, I have category, I have email. Note, that's something that I did, and you're able to define via these fields. We have text, email, rich text, password, bunch of other fields that I'll chat about in more detail to be able to add different fields where you're able to basically save data. And so if you go to my content manager, I'll show you this notes. I'm able to easily add a note from my API here by saying, hey, all, I can't spell, hope you are all awesome. And then I could select whoever is the author and the project. We'll go to John's project here. Let's go John's project. That's fine. Save and publish. I'm able to publish my note, and then I'm able to go and let's say I go to the John's project here, note, and now you could see this new note I just added. And so the goal is, instead of me having to add this from Strapi, I want to be able to add the note from my application, because the truth is, the way I'm using Strapi, this view here is going to be the super admin view. This is going to be my view to manage my website and to manage the content and everything else from here. But for the users that are using the service that I'm creating, you want to be able to do this from within my application. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly log out here to show you the flow. So the idea is you should be able to click, you could either register, and the registration works. Again, this is dummy text. I do need to update this registration, but for now, works, it's fine. You could log in. For now, I have a user called John Wick, who's apparently a developer. And then when you log in, you're taken to our login page, and where you're able to see and manage your projects. You're able to go to the project section and you're able to create a project. So I'm gonna add an image, and then new project. And there's still a lot of stuff I'm working on, but you have this basic just added basic functionality I create. It's going to create my project. And so here's the new project that I created, right? And so here's the basic thing. And so eventually you'll be able to add the details. I haven't implemented it yet, but tasks work. So I could add a task, whatever, hey, and then status pending. So I could click add task, and notice how it adds the task. And the coolest thing, when it adds it here, it also adds it to our backend. And all this data is stored on our backend API, which is really, really cool and awesome. And so the tasks work, comments, it's still hard-coded. So today I did and went ahead and set up notes. So this new project doesn't have any notes. And so I am able to add notes from Strapi, right? So I could go to my content manager, go to notes, add a new note. I'm just going to type gibberish just because I'm slow at typing. And then I'm going to add this new project. And I guess I should have named it something else. I don't remember. It's this new project, save, but that's fine. And then when I go back, I didn't publish the changes. And I could refresh. Okay, I saved it in the wrong one. I should probably name my projects better. Oops, and refresh. And now you see the note that I just added. But I don't want to add it from my Strapi backend, right? This is the users of my website. And so we have the dashboard here, and this is the functionality we're working on. So today we're going to work on adding a basic node by connecting this add node button that currently doesn't do anything. And we probably won't have time today, but we will also create a way for us to edit a node. So when you click this button, it'll take us to the edit node page where we're able to edit, I can't talk, our node. But today we're can we create a node? And it's going to be very similar to the way we created the task. So before creating the node, let's chat about how am I getting the data in this section. So let's look at the code. And by the way, at any moment, if you have questions, don't be shy, ask. I'm using Remix because that's my favorite framework. I love Remix. My second favorite is Next.js. My third favorite is obviously Create React App. But this is what we're doing. And let me zoom in a little bit so you could see the code better. Let me know if that works for you, or if I need to make it bigger. And so the structure of a Remix application, basically all your magic happens inside your app folder, and you have this folder called routes. And this is where you have file-based routing. This is where all your pages live. So I have my about page, my blog page, my community page, my dashboard page. And so when you're navigating through this website, you know, about the resources, blog, those are the pages that you saw, and dashboard, of course, that you saw in that folder structure. And so when we go to dashboard, Remix makes it super easy to have nested layout with nested routing. We can talk about it in more detail later, but for now, I have this projects folder. Within that projects folder, we have our project that you're able to find based on the ID when you provide in the URL parameter. And then this section here, notes, this is where we're working right now. And so if we take a look here, I'm gonna quickly go over the code that we have here, and let me know if it's eligible and readable, just to kind of make sure. And so I'm gonna, I'm gonna just close some of these things here for a second here, just so it's easier to read the notes. Basically, we have our component here, and this one could be moved into the component folder, but we basically have our node route. So whenever someone goes to the project and they go to notes, you see this route here. Whenever you hit that route, it is going to display these items here. It's going to display our notes, right? So we see the node header and we see our notes. And the reason why we see them is because we went to this URL project ID notes, and here you are, you see the notes header, and then you see our notes. And so now, how am I getting this data? Well, Remix has this amazing feature. It has this loader function that you define by using the loader keyword, and you're able to request your data, and this runs on the server side, which is pretty cool. And so what I'm doing is I have this function called user data, and basically, just to give you the big picture overview, all this does is when you logged in, it creates a cookie and stores it in session storage, and I'm basically getting that user, and I'm checking, do we have a logged in user? If we do, don't do anything. And if we don't have a logged in user, redirect. And I'll show you how that works here quickly. So right now I'm on a dashboard, right? I'm gonna kind of save this URL so you could see it. And if I log out, let me go log out. I need to put another log out button on the bottom here, but let me log out. And if I try to just go to that URL, right? Because I'm not logged in, there is no user stored in session storage. So when I click enter, it redirects me to the login. And this is exactly the code that you see here. It's like, hey, if there's no user data logged in session storage, redirect me to login. Now, when I go ahead and log in, and sign in, now that I'm logged in, I'm able to go to the notes URL here, and you get to see all the notes. And that's because here in our code, what's happening, this get user data function that I created basically is like, hey, you do have a user in session storage, which is pretty cool. And so since user does exist, let's go ahead and run this code here, which is pretty awesome. And let me know if my music's too loud. I'll turn it down a little bit so it doesn't bother you. And so I realized I wasn't sharing my screen because my cat touched something. I have to repeat that all over again. Good Lord. Thank you, MC Rodriguez, for saying that. I do not mind going back and repeating it again. I have a wonderful cat that likes to hit my mouse. So let's do that demo again. Let me move my kitty out of the way for a second. Kitty says hello. She loves pushing buttons. But thank you for pointing that out, Rodriguez. But I'll go through the example again. So walking through the code again. So we start in this loader function, and I'll just explain again. This runs on the server side, and it allows us to make requests to fetch our data. And basically, the first thing that I have here is I check if we have a user data in session. So we call this get user data, which basically checks, is there a user in logged in? If so, continue to this code. And if there is no user logged in, make sure to redirect them. And I'll show that example again that I showed before. And what I'll do is I'll make sure to check my screen often to make sure that we could see the view. So now check this out. If I log out, but before I do that, let me save this URL. I'm going to log out. Once I log out, there's no user in session. It's clear. And so basically in this code here, right, if you hit this note route, it's going to run this loader function, and it's going to run this get user data function. And if there's no user in session, what it's going to do is going to be like, hey, you don't belong here. You're not logged in, and it's going to kick us to login. So check this out. I am logged out right now. If I try to cheat by linking to that dashboard URL that we had, I click enter, boom. No, it's like, no, there is no user in session, so it's going to kick me out. And that's basically what this does here. It checks, is there user in session? If not, redirect them to login. Now, when I log in, obviously John Wick is a developer who uses this website to manage his projects. So once I sign in, now there is a user in session. And what happens, this check happens. Oh, hey, there is a user, right? So let's move on. And so now the way I'm getting data from Strapi, I'm able to use this get notes by project ID. And this all runs server side, which is pretty cool. And it will only render the front end, which is here, once we have the data. And so if I go here, we are getting our, I have this API folder, we're getting our notes. And this is the function that I created. It's basically a basic fetch where I am basically getting nodes by project ID, providing some params towards the Strapi API to make sure that's what we search for. And we're getting back that data in our nodes route. So go back to our routes. I have too many things open here. That's fine. Project notes. And basically what it calls that basic fetch. Once we get that data, we convert it to JSON. And now from our, because this runs server side, we are able to get this on our front end by using our Remix magic, using use load data hook. And what this allows us to do, it gives us access to the nodes that we just got from our Strapi backend here, right? This is all the nodes we have. And we just got the nodes based on the projects that are associated with that. So I don't know why I have two windows open here. So if we go to that project view, and here are the nodes, and here are the nodes that we are getting. Let me refresh this. Yep. And so now we know that we are able to get the nodes. That's awesome. And what I'm doing is I'm passing that data to my nodes component, which is like fairly simple. What it does, it's basically has a, and I have to refactor some of the stuff, but it basically has the nodes component, which basically loops through all the nodes that we return. And then it will return our single node component, which is here, which renders our nodes to the, to our view. So basically, this is what we see here. Now, I'm really curious here. Oh, I was like, this is showing the wrong thing. And then I realized this is a deployed project, that not where I'm working at. I'm working on localhost. And so that was the issue why I wasn't looking at the proper nodes. That kind of threw me through the loop. But we go to nodes. Here are the nodes that we have that are actually coming from our local instance of Strapi. So we know that we're able to get the nodes. So what we want to do now is we want to create a add node section. And the good news, it's going to be very similar to what we did here with tasks, where we have an endpoint called add task, and we have the simple form. And for brevity of what we're doing here, we are going to go ahead and just follow that same example, because a lot of times if you did it once, do it again, just so you could continue to kind of ingrain that pattern in your mind. So let's go take a look at the tasks route to kind of see what we did and replicate that for our nodes. Now, for now, we're going to do a very basic implementation for the nodes where we're just going to send normal text, but eventually you'll be able to send Markdown, and then we'll have a little preview to see how Markdown looks like. And I think using Markdown makes your note taking a little bit more straight, just more better user experience, because you could add images, you could add links, you could do lists, and it's going to make it look really, really nice. So right now, let's go back to our code and go to our tasks route. And so we're going to start by looking at this add task JSX component to kind of see what's happening here. And I don't remember why I'm not using that here. Okay, whatever. I could delete that because I'm not using it. And so basically, we're going to follow this pattern to be able to add our notes. And so the way we handle form submission in Remix is we use our action function, and the way this is specific to Remix, so you need to call it this, and this is where you're able to get your form data. And again, we're going to look at this in a little bit more detail, and then we pass that data object to our create task function that we're going to write that is going to, oh, my kitty came back. I have to move her again because she likes to switch my screen. I'm sorry, kitty. I'm sorry. And basically, we will make the API call that's going to go ahead and post that data to our API, which is awesome. And we'll then, once the response is correct, and I have to make this more nicer to handle errors. Right now, I'm just getting the functionality to work. But then once we do get the note added, we'll redirect it to the notes. And if we take a look at the way we're making a form submission, it's really cool because if you're using React, or even Next.js, a lot of us are used to adding the value prop to our form, right? And so as you could see here, there is no value. We're actually able to get the value in our action function based off the name. And so what Remix gives you is this magical thing, this request object, which has this form data method, which allows you to get the data from your form based on its name. So we have task, status, and description. And we are able to see we have tasks, status, and description. And that's how we're able to do it. So what we're going to do, we're going to actually copy and paste this just to make it easier. And we're going to build out our add note route. So we're going to go to our notes. And we might have to do some refactoring here. So we have our notes. So what we want to do is we want to refactor this a bit, because if we take a look here, when you go to projects, tasks, when you click add task, notice how you have tasks URL, and then you have add tasks is this nested routing. And so we want to do something similar. So the first thing we want to do, let's refactor to follow this pattern. And again, at any moment, if you have questions or you're like, what the hell are you talking about? Feel free to ask, because I'm here not only to live code and fail, which I often do and cry, but also to help you answer your questions. And maybe you don't use Remix, which is perfectly fine, because at the end of the day, it is React. But it'll be a great learning opportunity. And by the way, if you do see me doing something completely wrong, also, please let me know. That's awesome too. And what's up, Luke? Great to see you here. Luke is a really awesome dude. Love when he stops by. And so going back to our project, what we want to do is we want to create a new folder called notes, and whatever we have inside our notes.jsx file, we're going to move it to our index.jsx file, which it sounds confusing, but we'll talk about it. So let's start the refactor, and a bunch of stuff I'm pretty sure is going to break. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new folder. But before I do that, so tasks is set up. So notes, this logic is going to live somewhere else. And so what I'm going to do for now, I'm going to comment it out, and yes, our application is going to break, no big deal. And instead, what we want to have, because this is going to be our parent route, the way we set it up, our parent, we have the file name tasks.jsx, and we put this outlet in here to render all the parents components here. And so we need to create a new folder called notes. And whatever we render inside the index component here, it is going to be displayed via, I didn't add it here, let me add it here, via this outlet. So anything that is inside our parent, right? Anything inside the parent here that we're going to have in a second is going to be displayed via this outlet. And so I want to go ahead. I'm going to, for now, just create a simple component, and we're going to call this notes route. And then we're just going to do like some dummy text. HQ, what kind of HTML am I writing? Okay, and so now basically when someone goes to our notes route, it's going to hit this function. Because we created a folder, a parent folder that's going to have additional nested routes, it's going to display what we created here on the index route. So let's go see if things are still working or if they're broken. So check this out. I'm going to click notes and boom, it works. It is displaying our parent component. And within here, we're able to have additional nested routes. So we want to have note/add note, note/edit note. And those are going to be dynamic routes that we're going to talk about in a second, because not all of them for edit notes. But for now, we're going to add task or add note, I should say. So, and again, if you're confused, because I'm still trying to talk through what I'm still learning. So if I'm babbling on, that's okay. I'm not afraid to embarrass myself, so no worries there. And so now what I want to do inside our notes file, we want to have a link to add note route where we are going to have the logic and the form to add the note. So I'm going to create a new file and we're going to call it add note.jsx. And here's the cool part. We're going to just do a component and all of these are routes. So I love to name him add note route. That makes it more kind of apparent what that is. And then here, I'm going to say add note. And so this should work fine. So now check this out. When we go to our notes, if there's no additional route provided, it will automatically, in the URL, it will automatically show what we have on the index, which is here, right? Notes from index.jsx. And then we're about to go to add notes from add note JSX route. And so now if because we don't have a link there, I'm going to type it here. I'm going to type add note. And notice here we are. We have our add note JSX. So we're making progress. We set up our routes. We set up our nested routes. So we are good to go. So now what I want to do is for the brevity of time, what we did in our add tasks folder, I'm going to copy this code for now and I'll paste it in, and then we're going to go ahead and make the refactor to make this work. And so let's go to add notes. I'm going to copy and paste that, and I'm going to kind of quickly look through it. And we're going to change a lot of stuff here. And then I'm going to call this add notes note route. And this should render, but we're going to change all this. And I'm going to talk through the code. No worries if we are confused for any reason. But let's just see if something shows up. So check this out. We have our notes. Let's go to add note. And now we have our code from add task that we're going to refactor, but we are getting closer. But what I want to do first is let's display the notes that we were displaying before here. And this was the code that I originally wrote before we started doing our refactor. So I'm going to take all this stuff and cut it out because we needed to move it to the parent now. So I'm going to take that, put it in my index.js here, and comment it out. And let me check this out here. Notes header, that's fine. We have the loader and notes route. So everything's named fine. So I think this should work. What is this complaining? Import is duplicated because where's it duplicated? What are you talking about? Link. Oh, yeah, because I have this. I should just put the link in here. No worries. Thank you for telling me that. So now we should go back, refresh, and boom. So now we have our projects. You go to the notes. We are fetching our data. And now I have this add note button, which basically will redirect us to the add notes route that we just created. So in my note header, I have this link, which is going to take us to the add note URL. And so when I click this, boom, now we have that add note window where we copy and pasted the code from add tasks, just so you don't have to make me do stuff from scratch, because that's how I do it. And Jose, you're not late, buddy. Great to have you here. Just glad that I have some people keeping me company, because Friday nights are tough. I get it. And usually it's the worst time to stream because people usually do fun things. But for me, I want to continue practicing live coding, and Friday nights and Saturday mornings is my live stream time. So I do go out on Saturday nights sometimes, you know, hang out, chill with my friends, my cats, whatever. And by the way, if you haven't smashed the like button, go ahead, smash the like button if you're enjoying this, because it does help others people find the stream when we do that. So now let's go back and refactor our add task to actually be add note. So here we go inside our add note, and we're gonna start with just the UI first. So add notes route. So sweaty here today. I'm in Texas, which is funny because it's winter. I have the window open and it's so warm outside. It's like so ridiculous. So here we are. So we're going to do add note. And I could probably change this into a component eventually, but I'm not going to worry too much about it. And we have our submit button, and we're going to say add note. And that looks great. So check this out. See, add note, add note. Now let's refactor here. We're going to say note name here. And it's add note. And I'm going to kind of explain to you what everything is. And this is going to be note. And so what I did to simplify me creating my form elements, I actually went ahead and created a form field component to which I'm able to pass text or password or whatever. And I'll show you what it looks like just to kind of make it easier. And I did the same. I made a form text area component and form dropdown component. And so if you look at my components, if we go to form field, under the hood, it's basically a component that creates a text input element, and I have a label on it. I have passing the type that you want, so it's fairly flexible. It could be a password, it could be a text field, it could be whatever. We have a placeholder, so I just kind of turn it into a component just because it makes it easier for me. So if you're like, what is that? It's a basic input component that I created in React. And so we want to have a note. For our form text area, we're going to call this our content. Actually, this is not going to be a note. This is going to be a title. And I'll tell you how I know this. So inside my Strapi instance, I created my note type. And so it expects the title. It expects content. We also need an author and the project, which will be able to pass. And I'll show you when we get there how we do that. But for now, let's see if we could get the title and content from our form. And so we created this input. We have our title. We have our content. And so the most important part for you to keep in mind here is we have name title. And we have name content. This drop down we could remove because we don't need it here. And I believe our form is done. So let's take a look here in our front end. So we have add note. This should be add title. Let me fix that. Add title. Thanks, Jose. This is really cool. I mean, I started doing live to kind of showcase to people what it's like to code in real life. And a lot of times it's not as smooth as this. I actually do hit a lot of roadblocks, do a lot of crying and get stuck, which is a normal part of learning to code. So I try to kind of go ahead and kind of show the reality of what it's like to code, like when you're doing it. And I'm Rodriguez. I love this ATX weather. Hey, are you near Austin? That's pretty cool. If you are, Rodriguez, let me know. Where do you live in? Pretty neat. So we're going to keep at it, keep going. So we created our form. And so the coolest part, the way Remix works, like I don't need to put like state or like value and pass whatever. Whatever I type here and click add node, I just broke a bunch of stuff. It's okay. Let's go back to notes. But don't worry, it's not broken completely. Let's go to add node. But I'll show you what we need to do. We need to do a few steps. But let me do this dummy stuff here. And so, like I said, pay attention to the fact that we have our field, name title, and name content. And how do we get this data in Remix? It's super, super duper cool. We have the magic of the action function. And then inside the action function, we don't need to worry about the loader. The loader function, all it does here, it checks if there's a logged in user. And if there isn't, we just redirect them to log in. So it's more of the route security here, but we're more concerned about this here. And what I'm doing here is I'm able to get the project ID from the params. If you take a look here, this, I know you can't see it, but we have this parameter 12 that refers to the project that we're in. So that's how I'm able to have access from the params, which is again, something Remix Magic does. And I'm able to get that project ID that we need. I'm going to be able to get the user data that I need to pass from this user data that we're going to take a look in more detail. But for now, the way we're able to get form data from our form that we have is using this form data object or method that we have from the request object here, which is, again, more magic of Remix. And we're able to get it by using the names that we gave, which we gave the title and we gave content. And we're going to have access to that title, that content. We're not passing the description. And here we're going to say content. And the project ID is coming from URL, and our author ID is coming from our user data that we have inside a session storage when someone logs in. So this is what the get user data does. It gets that session storage for us, and it basically gives us access to our user. And so status doesn't exist. This is what we need. And for now, I'm going to comment this out. I'm going to return null for now, so it doesn't break our app. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to console log this data to send. So we're about to see, are we getting our form data that we are submitting? Let's take a look. And so I'm going to go ahead here, and I think it's going to be fine. Nothing's going to break. So let me refresh just to make sure. Note name. That should be... Did I not change this? Add note. I'm in add note. Let's go to my form. Add title. Add note, placeholder. Note, title, note content. Add note, note content, note title. Okay. That makes sense. That shouldn't be add node. This should be node title, because that makes more sense. Okay, node title. And so again, remember I said, and I keep repeating it because it's important in Remix, we're getting our data in for the form within the request using the traditional form submission method that you typically get in normal HTML form. So we just need to have the name, title, name, content, and the way we're able to access that data is we have this request object which has get form data, and we're able to get those attributes based the name attribute, title and content. And then we should have this data object available. So let's give it a try again. Go, this is a note. This is content. Click add note, and nothing's going to happen. So let's see, inspect. Let's look at console log. Oh, wait, there's no console log here. Why isn't there console log here? Well, this is the coolest part here. Where does that console log go? Oh, no, this function runs on the server. It doesn't run client side, which is beautiful because we're not asking our client to do anything that it doesn't need to. And so where we actually going to see this is boom inside here. And let me zoom in this part. Oh, zoom in too much, not enough, too much. And so we are getting that data. Look, title, this is a note. Content, this is the content. Look, we have the project ID. We have the author ID. So that is pretty cool. And so let's see if there's any questions here. By the way, I love all of you who are watching the stream and people who are going to rewatch the stream later, or people that are not even watching us. I love everybody. That's fine. So now what we want to do is we want to create this function, create task, but we're going to call it create note. And we're going to pass our data and our token because it's going to be an authorized request. And it's basically going to be a basic fetch request. And this is going to be so similar to our create task code. So we're going to cheat and use that. And of course, I'll talk through the code. And the less typing we could do on screen, the better, because who the hell wants to do that? And just south of ATX, it is a barbecue capital of Texas, 100%. MC Rodriguez, hit me up on LinkedIn or email me at coding. I need more friends in the local area, Texas, coding after 30 at gmail.com. Yeah, we should hang out for sure or meet up. I actually, by the way, you and I should go together to Remix Meetup. It's tiny, but it's cool. It's a lot of fun. My car broke, so I'm going to see if I could borrow my friend's car to drive up. There's one on Wednesday, and if Wednesday too soon, there's another one happening on next month. But by the way, like you could go learn about it. I think meetups.org, right? I'm assuming. I don't know. Like I can't spell Google. Meetups.org or whatever that site is called. Meetup. Oh, it's meetup.com. I love how like they create the UI. Check this out. Where's the login? Where's the login? Where is it? They used to have the login where it's like really apparent. Let me log in with Google. And so, yeah, it's this Remix Austin. I actually gave a couple of talks here, but it's really cool. This dude, Brooks, runs it. It's fantastic, and it's a lot of fun. And they do actually, a lot of times at the end of the meetup, they ask if anybody's hiring. Actually, HEB, the company that sponsors this meetup, hires all the time. And if you live in Texas, you know what HEB is. They actually have an amazing tech hub. And they do it inside the meetup, inside of the HB Tech Hub. Beautiful place. So this is when it's happening, Wednesday, December 14th at 6 p.m. If you can't make it this month, it's perfectly fine. Another, like you could always come in, but that'll be cool. We should definitely do it. And 100%, cheers. And back to the code. So we are going to take a look here. And let me zoom this in here. So we handle our API requests and calls from this API folder that I created. And I'm going to show you the tasks example, create task server. And whenever you do create task and you put .server.js, this is the code that's going to run on the server. And like I said, anything that we could offload to run on our backend, it is great because you want your client to be nice and lean. So we take a look at create task here. We could see the code here, very simple. All we're doing is we're hitting the endpoint of our Strapi API and we're literally using fetch. We're passing our bearer token and we're passing our data. And then we return that response. So that is kind of cool. I'm going to copy and paste it. And inside my notes folder, I'm going to create a new file and I'm going to call it create note.server.jsx. And I'm going to copy and paste. No, it's not JSX. Paul, don't lie to the folks. It's JS because it's a regular JavaScript file that runs on the server. There's no JSX. I'm going to copy and paste this. And I'm going to refactor this. We're going to call it create notes. Create note. Kat, I'm sorry. You want to spend time with me, but you keep turning off the screen. I'm sorry, everybody. Oh, I'm so sorry, kitty. Oh, but go play with your sister. I'm going to give her love afterwards, but for now, every time she's up here, I love her, but my computer is so finicky that she will turn off the camera, do like whatever display. And by the way, if you're just joining on, thank you so much. Love you all. You're watching Coffee Code and Chat with me. I stream twice a week, Fridays and Saturdays, Coding After 30. Why? Because I started learning to code late in my life, around 36. I got my first job at 39. I'm 42 now. And so I talk about my journey of becoming a developer. And if that's you or not you, thank you for coming in. Thank you for jumping in. Really love it. And back to the code. By the way, if you haven't smashed the like button, smash it for all your friends here in the chat. Don't smash it for me. I'm okay. So let's review this. So basically what we're doing, we have our create note function, which we pass the data that we got from our form. We pass the token. And what we're doing is we're making a post request to our Strapi backend. And this is going to be notes. And I'll show you how I know this. I'm not smart. It's not magic. I'll just show you where I get this data. We're passing the bearer token and we're running this function. So let's double check. I called it create note. This is called create notes. It lives in our notes folder. So let's go back to our, let me close the screen for a second. Let's go back to our create note route. We want to import create note from notes, create note, and we're not using this one. So that looks correct. And so now what's going to happen is we are going to get the data from our form based on the name attribute for both our title and our content. Inside our action folder, we're getting that data here. We're passing inside our data object that we want to set to our Strapi API. We're getting our project ID from our URL params, which we have access through this params. And we are getting our author from our user data that's stored in session. And we could talk more in detail, but first let's get this working. And this is no needed there. This from our previous example. And so now I think this almost going to work. So let's see if it works. And let's give it a try. And I do need to implement error handling here right now. There's no error handling here at the moment, but it's make it work first and then refactor. That's how I live. So let's take a look. And this is not going to work, and I'll show you why in just a second. But I'm going to do blah, blah. I hit add note. It looks like it worked, but it didn't. And I don't know if it's going to show an error here, and it won't. Maybe it did work, but it shouldn't have. Unless, oh no, it did work because I realized that I already gave permission in the Strapi backend to allow that request. So let's see if it did work. So we go to notes, and notice here we are. We created this node with a bunch of gibberish. And it did work. And the reason why it worked, and I'll show you in Strapi, usually you don't have permission to hit an endpoint. You have to give that permission. So you could do it in settings, roles, and we're doing authenticated request. And if we take a look at notes, we gave permission for this create endpoint. And this is where we're making the call and passing our data. So now that works. And so let me go back to my notes, content manager notes. Let me delete the new notes I created. And let's test it again. Let's go back to our project here. Let's go to notes. So notice we have 1, 2, 3, 4 notes. Let's add a note. I just did this live on stream. OMG, add note. And we added the note. We did a run redirect, which we'll fix in a second. That's what you get for copying and pasting the code you wrote for tasks. But in notes, the reason why this didn't work, because we need to hook up the redirect. But if I refresh, that still didn't work. So we do have a bug, and we'll figure it out. But I think I know the reason why, because hold on a second. We have a bug. Hey, we did run into an issue. I told you I cry on this live stream a lot. I told you. So let's figure it out. We know that we created it. We know we made it. Why? Because we have the, maybe it didn't. Maybe it failed. No. It's the third note. I just did this live on stream. So we do have an issue. We have 2 issues, and this is why we have 3 issues. We have a bunch of issues. So number 1, we didn't set the author and the project. So there's something that I'm doing wrong, which we have to troubleshoot and figure out. So, and that's why it didn't showcase the note, because it didn't set the proper project. So now if I do it manually here, which is not what we want to do, but if I go to John's project, go note, now we see this note. So let's troubleshoot and figure out what happens. Let's figure this out. And to be honest, I'm not sure what the issue is, so it's going to be great fun. By the way, this is a simple landing page that I'm building in Next.js. I'm going to create a tutorial for Coding Addicts YouTube channel, so keep an eye out on it. I'll show you how to build this and how to use Strapi to dynamically to be able to generate this page, where as a content manager, they could add as many of these sections as they want with whatever info they want, and will dynamically generate this. But enough self-advertising here. Oh God, troubleshooting, the pain starts. Oh, that should have worked. That should have worked. It's no different than task. Because when we look at our task, content builder task, we have literally same stuff. That makes sense. Title, similar structure. So note, content builder, note. Yep, we have the relationship. So let's take a look in our code. So let me, for the sake of this, so we are getting project ID, author ID. Okay, did I call it project and author as the keys in the note backend here? Let's take a look. So I did call it author and project. Project 12, author ID. We're passing the data. Let's go inside the create note. I'm not gonna do this. I'm going to return null. Probably gonna complain, but that's okay. And I wanna console.log data and token, and let's see what we get. And this is when you code on your own. This is basically what's going to be. It's going to be a lot of like making mistakes, a lot of bugs, and this is perfectly normal. It's not exciting. It's actually quite painful, but this is what you should enjoy and do. So let's go and check it out. Add a note, testing, testing. Got to be careful. I don't want to testes, write testes back and add note. And hopefully we could see this. So we're getting testing, content, testing, project, author. Then we are destructuring the data in our request. We're sending it here. What's interesting, we're getting that data passed. So when in doubt, and this is like I gave myself too much confidence. And so what I should have done is tested the API first from Insomnia or Postman, whatever you love to do. So let's quickly do that. And then try to figure out what is causing our issue. Dismiss. So do I have like my folder, new request, get post, new requests, new request, get author, get project. So auth local. I need to rename this is the one I'm looking for. Rename login. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to just test it from our API. I'm going to log in with my test user here, send. So now I got back this token that we need. So I'm going to make a new request, which is going to be a post request. I'll just do it here. And that's going to go to API notes, I believe. And we're going to pass our bearer token. Wait, let me go copy back. Let me copy this token, copy. Let's go back to here, add, that's bearer. I'm going to rename this also. Create note. And then we need to pass body in JSON, and I believe Strapi expects a data object. And inside here, we are passing our title, test from, I'm going to test this incrementally, test from Insomnia. And then we pass our content, which is going to be some text. And so let me go ahead and just try this. So this should work, but it's not going to set the user or the project. So I'm going to click send. Okay, so that worked. So if we take a look at Strapi, in our notes, and testing from Insomnia. So we're able to do this. So now let's see if we could set the author, and that should take the ID. So we're going to do author, and let me look up the author ID for John Wick. It's 18. So let's do 18. And now let's hit send. So this should create another note, but we should have the author attached to it, I'm assuming. So let's give it a try, send. And so we hit an error. And let's now see if we could see what the error is. And that error is going to be on our backend. Note ID, user ID, SQL error, insert into notes author links, note ID, user ID, value 918. So does it have to be an integer? Let's try that. Let's see. Okay, so let's go back here. Let's keep it an int. I just want to see, make sure that the server crash. No, the server is fine, but I'm going to restart it just for the sake. So maybe for ID, it expects an integer. But we'll see. I thought that it was smart enough, but let's give it a try. So click send. Still another internal server. So there's something else going on. There's something happening under the hood in Strapi. Returning ID notes. Let me try something else here. And this is like a lot of times, this is what you do. You just kind of keep trying stuff. ID. ID of 18. And if this won't work, there's a deeper issue that is happening. And that one is going to be actually harder to troubleshoot. It'll probably take me way more than the time we have here. But at least we're getting closer. Foreign key constraint failed. I'm kind of interested here because I did on this particular notes, content type builder, notes. I made author ID. Hold on a second. No, that's fine. Let me check this out. No, that looks fine. Title, project. That is so interesting. That makes no sense to me. But it's definitely error, not in our front end, but error in our back end. And I'm really bad at troubleshooting like SQL errors. And by the way, a lot of people, they're like, man, I could become a full stack developer in 3 months. The truth is, it's not going to be that easy because when you're doing full stack, it's not only knowing, let's say, Node.js, but it's actually getting comfortable troubleshooting SQL errors or, like basically database entry errors to kind of figure out. So insert into notes, author, links, note ID, user ID, value. So foreign key constraint failed. I wonder what that, such a generic. We're not using Prisma. Yeah, this is so, like, it's such a generic thing that it could be a bunch of different things. This is annoying. So what I'm going to do, because I think it's a Strapi error. And so let me think about it. We have our notes. Our note has relationships to project and user. So what I'm going to do for now, I'm going to kind of remove these and then add them one by one to see which one triggers the error. So add another field. We want to have relationship to the author. And field author has one author. That makes sense, right? Let me just see how I did it in tasks. I think like I use, author has many notes, and I wonder if this has one-to-one way relationship is giving us an issue. But that's okay. We're going to try a bunch of different things one at a time. So notes, I'm going to add a new relation. It's going to be author. I'm going to keep this the same. Click finish, save. And then I'm going to go into here, and I'm going to go back to my original notation because I think this is fine. And then we're going to pass the ID, and I'm going to click send. So that worked. So now let's take a look in Strapi notes. I think this is the one I did it. We have our relationship for John. That's good. Let me just do it one more time because like an idiot, I should have typed something different here. So it's easy. So click send. So that did not fail. So go back to notes. So here's the one we just added. So the relationship work. So now let's add back our projects relationship. So content builder, notes, create relation, author. Wait, oh, I know what I did. Not author. Hold on a second. I think I know what happened. I think when I create a relationships to projects, I didn't do this. I swear to God, I did this right. But we want so project. This is project, and this would be this is going to be projects. And so project has many notes. So this makes sense. Finish, save, and let's try it out again. This was like interesting. So I know we're in project 12. Click send. Fingers crossed, everybody. And it worked. This is so annoying. You remember that we did this originally, right? And it didn't work. Actually, let me do freaking worked so we could see it. Send. And let's go back here. Let's go to our content manager, notes, and Strapi. I think it's on our sec. Let's do show 100. Freaking worked right here. So that worked. So the only thing I could suspect here is that when I was creating this note collection in Strapi, node collection here, when I created the author relationship and the project relationship, I must have renamed something, or I must have had this point to something else, and it was broken, and I just didn't pay enough attention. So the way we fix this is basically deleting the previous ones and trying it again. But like, I should have been paying more attention. So now, though, we know that the request works from our Insomnia. And so now this should work from our front end. So let's go back to our front end. Where's our front end application here? Let me make sure that in the front end, I set this back up. Okay, that works. So blah, 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 add nodes, repassing the data. So that's fine. This is fine. Could delete that comment. This is fine. So now in our, okay, we did have another bug that we have to fix first. So we have to fix the redirect. So once we have a successful response, we want to redirect projects, project ID, and then that's not tasks, it's notes. So it's going to take us to dashboard projects, use that project ID, and get all the notes. So it's going to take us to this section here. So let's try it again. Fingers crossed. And then if this works, we'll do a quick review of what we did and then call it a night, because I'll be back streaming tomorrow morning. So add note. We are all cool, but my viewers, I can't spell, viewers are, see, I can't spell, even cooler viewers. Okay, add note, fingers crossed. What the WTF? I'm going to refresh. Oh, no, it did work. I thought I had more things here. So we are cool. Did I only had 2 items here? Or is there another bug? Blah. Blah. Add note. Oh. It works. Add note. Oh my God. We freaking did it. Why if I go to new project, note, add note. Hey. Somebody please help me. Oh my God. Okay, we did it. We made notes to work with not as much crying as I anticipated. Okay, awesome. We made it. This was fantastic. So let's talk about quick review what we did. So whenever you go to any one of the projects, we go to notes. We have this notes view. Then within and this is a parent route, which has our child route to go add notes. So you have notes, add notes. If that doesn't make sense, I'll show you the code so it'll make more sense. So let's take a look at our code here. So basically, the way you create children and parent routes in Remix, and we'll just review. And again, if this doesn't make sense, you could always rewatch the stream. I'd like to think our streams are very helpful. And if they're not, I'm sorry. And by the way, if you haven't smashed the like button, what are you doing? Smash the like button till, not for me, for all the awesome comments here in the chat that I see. So what we did is we wanted to create a parent route that has children. And currently we have add notes and index. And whenever the way you create parent routes in Remix, it seems like a weird notation, but actually is super straightforward. If you don't want to have parent routes, you just call your thing whatever you want it to call. Like for instance, let me go like the simple example. The login route doesn't have any parents. So that's why you only have login.jsx file, but there's no folder corresponding to that. And so when you go to my application, when you go to, well, login was a bad example because we're logged in right now. So let me log out. When you go to login, it will show all this code that's living inside the login file. So all that logic that I showed. But if you want to have nested items, the way you do it is you create the file name, and instead of putting all your code inside there for notes, what you do is you create the outlet, and the outlet will render everything from the parent folder. And the way you make a parent is you name it exactly the same name as the file. So if I want to have notes parent, I will create a notes folder. Now, when there's no additional route provided when you go notes, so you don't go to /add_notes, it will automatically default to this index.jsx. And this is where we're making the request to fetch all of our notes. So whenever we go to, let me log in again. We go to, oh wait, I need to type in the username, John, everybody's like, Paul's doxing himself. You could see his email. I'm a real person. I have a LinkedIn account and I work at Strapi as a developer advocate. And so putting my name out there kind of makes no sense because I'm out in the public anyway. So we logged in. We go to our project. When you go to notes, it's going to display this section here, and that's coming from our index file inside our parent. When we click the link, it's going to redirect us to add note, which is going to take us to this add note file, and this is where we created our form. So when I click add note, it takes us to that add note folder. So quick review of how did we set up this file here. So I'll walk us through here. So the first thing we're going to look at is how we structured our form. Because we're using Remix basically using HTML standards. So the way you would submit form in HTML, we are just using method post. We get this data available to us in that request object. And all we need to do to get that data is just make sure that we keep in mind the name attribute and what we called it. Like for instance, we have title, we have content. When we make the post request in Remix, we have this magical function called action. Now, don't worry about this stuff yet. We'll talk about it in a second. We have this request object in Remix, which has this form data method that allows us to get the attributes from our form using the name that we gave, which is the title and the content. Then we are creating that data object that we want to pass to our Strapi backend. We have a create note function that we created. And I could delete this console log now that it works. And it's basically your basic fetch request. We're passing our data and we're passing our token. Once we get back the response, we're basically checking if the response was successful. I have to add better error handling. There's none right now. That's another video. But once we get the data back, we are going to redirect to our notes again and to show that note. And if you were wondering, what is this code here? This is how I'm checking if the user is logged in. So this function gets the data from the session storage. And then if the user is logged in, it will allow us to continue to here. But if there is no user data, it will redirect us to the login. And this action function only called when we submit our form. So the reason why I have this loader function, this function is called as soon as you land on the route. And so again, I'm checking whenever someone goes on this route, is there a logged in user in session? What could happen, someone could land here, this could run, and then they could log out. And when someone comes in, and let's say the window's open, and maybe they try to make a request within the, not within your UI, but just directly from whatever, Insomnia or whatever, curl request, we still want to do that check again to see if there's a logged in user when the form is submitted. So that's why we're checking again here. And in a nutshell, that's basically it. So next video, we'll see what we're going to do. I think what I want to do in the next video, because I don't want this to be just regular text, right? I want people to be able to write notes in Markdown because that makes sense. And so I think that's what we're going to do, is create a very basic Markdown editor to be able to add notes in Markdown. And this is the same thing we're going to use when we create, ability to add. And this is not formatted properly, so don't worry about it. But whenever we want to add a project, for instance, like if I go to projects, I hit create new project, description is going to be a basic description like the highlight, but we're going to have another thing here, which is going to be the project details that you want to write in Markdown. So we want to get that functionality. And I think this is what we're going to do next. So I think that's going to be a good stopping point. And so all of you who've made it this far, lots of love to all of you, because you're all awesome. And I appreciate you stopping by on a Friday night. I know it's super painful to watch somebody else code. And so I really appreciate that you kept me company. And I hope there was a bunch of value that you found here in this video. If you're wondering who I am, I'm some dude, random dude on YouTube who switched careers into web development super late in life. I literally started to code when I was 36, and I got my first job at 39, and I'm now 42 years old. And so if you're wondering if it's possible, yes, it is possible. And this was Coding Coffee and Chat. I have my coffee here. What am I doing? Drinking coffee in the middle of the night? I don't know, but it is what it is. And by the way, I stream every Friday night, 9 p.m. CST time. It's always live coding. And Saturday morning, it's more related to how to get hired, strategies of writing your resume, and all that stuff that has to do with soft skills. So tomorrow I'm going to be on, and I'm going to talk about 2 cool websites that could help you practice getting experience building things, and they both simulate how you would technically work at your job. So we're going to look at 2 websites. One has a free tier and one has a paid tier. So we're going to look at Frontend Mentors and why it's awesome. And we're also going to take a look at React Play and why it's awesome. But until then, that's tomorrow, 11 a.m. And sometimes, you know what, not going to say sometimes. Tomorrow I'll be here. And that's what we're going to talk about. So tune in tomorrow, 11 a.m. CST time. And I want to thank everybody who's been here. And MC Rodriguez, glad I found your content. Thank you for sharing. No, thank you for joining us. And so awesome to know that you're local to Texas. We'll definitely have to get a coffee and meet up in, go to that Remix meetup. That will be awesome. I'll try to send me an email. I'll try to see if you're able to make it this Wednesday. That'll be awesome. If not, that's perfectly fine too. And we had Jose tuning in. Great. We had Engine Boy, Luke, all these amazing Northern Chimp stopping by, all these amazing folks. So great to have you here, and lots of love. I hope you have the rest of the weekend wherever you are. If you're in a place where it's morning, good morning. If it's in the middle of the night, you should be sleeping. So I don't know what you're doing, but thank you so much. And I will see everyone later. Thank you for watching, and have a good night. Take care, everybody.